road, but that's been ignored. Those warnings have been ignored. They're still all standing up there, but I can't see any way out. I mean, police have got this entire area surrounded. What they're going to do from here, I don't know, because they're not going to have the time of day to be able to pick these protesters off one by one. So it'll be interesting to see how this situation unfolds into the evening and whether they will, in fact, let them just walk back down and back out onto the street again.
You said you've seen a number of arrests. Were they resisting or did they go peacefully?
No, it seems as though most of those people were going peacefully. The police, as we've seen in other protests, would go in, pick them up off the ground and walk back out again. The lady who we saw was screaming and crying. There's been a number of women who have been pulled from the protest. I'm not sure why, but they were screaming hysterically as they were led back to being processed. Those people seemed as though they were going okay when they were being taken away. There hasn't been any of that real anger towards the police in terms of that physical violence, but they seemed to be going peacefully when the police went in. It doesn't seem as though they've got any of those, what the Chief Commissioner has described as, you know, the angry men. It doesn't seem like they've arrested too many of those people yet, just mainly the people who are sitting down at the police's feet, who they've been able to go in and pick up quite easily off the ground. So it'll be interesting to see how this evening unfolds. I mean, they're still very, very vocal up there. They're still saying all the chants that they've been saying in the last couple of days and obviously hurling abuse towards the police. So I don't really see how they could pick all these people out and for them to go peacefully at the moment, Mike.
Tegan, as we're talking, we're seeing again a live stream. This is from the protesters' angle, so we'll take it for what it is, of the police appearing to talk to some female protesters there. It doesn't seem to be that animated, but they do seem to be telling the protesters to get back. It, again, doesn't seem that animated. We can't hear it, but that's what appears to be going on. Tegan, stay put. We'll come back to you if we need to. Now, earlier today, the Police Chief Commissioner warned his officers would do everything they could to stop this protest.
We will do everything we can to stop the gatherings in compliance with the Chief Health Officer guidelines. We don't get to pick and choose what are the laws we enforce. I'd simply say this. I would implore, I'd plead, I'd ask, any other word that I can use to say to people who are contemplating coming in here today to protest, do not do so. You're not going to be welcomed with open arms, I can assure you of that. What is going to occur? Victoria Police have planned. We have significant tactics in place. We will be agile in our response. We will be very swift in our response, and conduct, as we've seen yesterday and the previous day, will not be tolerated. Safe to say that those tactics will be different, and we have significant police numbers. I do not want to be giving any context whatsoever to anybody who may be considering coming in here to engage in unlawful activity. We will take all actions that we can to stop this. I would really ask people not to come in. Now is not the time to protest. And you've seen that we have a range of crowd control equipment that we've already deployed, and I have instructed my police commanders, if that's necessary to use, then they are to use it. We will, of course, factor in the safety of all individuals, because that's what we're about, community safety. But the reality is this protest can't be allowed to occur again.
That's Shane Patton, who was speaking there about 8:30 this morning. Let's go back to Paul Dowsley. And Paul, he made it pretty clear that he didn't want this protest to happen. What are we, 7 hours later? It did happen. It is happening. Have you seen a change in tactics with police at all?
Well, what I've seen more, Mike, is a change in the tactics of the protesters. Certainly there's been more police, absolutely more police. I wouldn't give you a figure on how many more than yesterday, but absolutely, and across the city also, not just around the CFMEU, but at intersections around that building, trying to stop this group from forming by getting anywhere near it, which is a tactic that police use at some big protests. They want to try and stop people in the nearby streets from forming. But what I have seen, as I say, is a change in tactics from this group, and whether it is by any coordination or by absolute chance, but at points today when police have been pursuing them, they have split off into splinter groups, and police then have to change their focus because they have multiple groups going in multiple directions, in different directions right across the city. They got up into up near the museum today before sort of regrouping and coming down here. But where I'm standing now, Mike, I mentioned to you before what this building means to Melbourne. It's a sad shot of the eternal flame where so many people spend a moment in reflection, and then today, this is what we have. This is what these people are doing to this building, and as Tegan said, the chief of the shrine reflected on the desecration of this building by their presence here today, by them climbing up on the building.
Yes.
And being here in a lockdown, I'm sure will make many Melburnians angry.
Yes, Paul, it's certainly a place for remembrance of the sacrifices made, not a place for protests, certainly now. Paul, just touching on what Tegan said before, we all know you were a victim of the violence yesterday. Have you sensed that kind of anger in this crowd today? Do you think that they have calmed down a little without making excuses for them?
No, sure, no, I've absolutely had anger again today. People shouting at me, people driving past shouting at us. No one has got right in my grill. There have certainly been people who are extremely upset with the media. But I will say that there has been a lot of protesters who've come up to me today and wanted to make it clear that what happened to me yesterday, where I was assaulted a couple of times, 3 times, was not representative of what they want to be doing, the actions they want to have. They fear, and I can't disagree with them, that their message, any hope of their message actually cutting through with what they want, will be absolutely destroyed by their behaviour, by their violence.
Paul Dowsley, stay there. We're going to go back to Tegan Dolling, who's on the other side of the shrine. Tegan, are we seeing any movement from the police towards the protesters?
Mike, just in the last couple of minutes since I spoke to you, there has been about 3 or 4 people who have been pulled out after being arrested. And as I said, they're going down to the back to be processed. What we are seeing, though, is that a lot of these protesters are starting to move around up there, which we haven't exactly seen all day. I don't know if that's because maybe police have encroached up into their space. They're starting to, I suppose, probably think of what their next move is going to be. But as you can see, they are starting to move around up there. They are still yelling at the police, though, and asking for the police to let them go freely. After hearing from Shane Patton earlier today, I don't think that's a tactics that he's wanting his police officers to use, but it is definitely, this standoff here is now going for 2.5 hours, so it'll be interesting to see what the police next move is going to be. We've also got a lot of people who have come down just for a run along the Tan that are now building up to watch this. Everybody's meant to be in lockdown. We're worried about COVID obviously spreading. There's a lot of people who are down here just watching on as well, so be interesting to see what's going to happen and what's going to be the police as well as the mob's next move, Mike.
Yeah, but Tegan, you were also following the crowd through the city. They were moving quickly, weren't they, to try to avoid the police who were in hot pursuit?
Yeah, absolutely. They really snagged all the way through the city. We saw them down near Southern Cross Station. Next minute, they're up at Queen Victoria Market. And then they've moved all their way back down to the shrine. We don't understand, obviously, what the significance of them wanting to come down to the shrine really is. But they were definitely just like, as we were saying earlier, Mike, it's almost like there's no leader out here. They're just wanting to play cat and mouse with the police. It's like they're almost just wandering aimlessly because they don't know what else to do with their days. But there is really no reason for them to have chosen this site in particular, I suppose, and why they've decided to be singing the songs and the chants that they're singing. They're singing, obviously, the national anthem. They're singing a lot of other Australian songs. I think they're trying to get a bit of a kick out of the police, but at the moment the police are holding their ground and they're not using those forceful tactics that we've seen recently at other protests.
And just picking up on what we were talking to Paul about, are you able to talk to these people? I mean, they say they have a cause, but yesterday we only saw intimidation and thuggery. Are they expressing why they're there today?
At the moment, they're still just doing those chants of sack Daniel Andrews and they're screaming at the police to come and stand with them. I don't think that's going to happen. But you can't speak to these people. When you're out the side here and you're getting ready to do a live cross like we're doing now, they just come and they yell at you. And even when you try to reason with them and try to hear what they have to say, it's almost like they don't want you to be able to do that. So they're just yelling and really not getting any point or message across. That's what I've come to find standing here at the moment anyway. But to be honest, a lot of them them are up there. We've seen a couple of stragglers trying to make their way in, but the police have been really good at making sure that they can keep back and keep those people away. But look, it's the same messages that we heard yesterday about hating the police, hating Dan Andrews, not wanting this mandatory vaccination, and that the media just spruiks fake news.
Okay, Tegan Doling, stay there. We're going to cross to you again throughout the hour. We're live with the latest on the unfolding standoff at the Shrine, and of course the earthquake. That's coming up straight after the break.
Tonight in 7 News.
Oh my God.
Melbourne rocked, shaken by a big earthquake. Shockwaves across the city.
Oh my God.
And the state. Live coverage.
It's quite incredible here.
Special reports.
A lot of people stunned by what's happened.
7 News at 6 o'clock.